it takes everybody and all viewpoints to make this a successful fire service for all, because we serve all. We should have that kind of representation on our respective departments, because that's who we serve.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, that exposure leads to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip. To learn more, visit magnagrip.com.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of everyone's favorite podcast, radio show, and Law and Order episode. This is the Larry Conley radio show, and I, of course, as usual, am David Conley, happy at all times to introduce really meaningful hosts. But in absence of that, today, I'm going to introduce our host, ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Chief of Training for Collinsville, Illinois Fire Department, and also your best friend and mine, Larry Conley.
Thank you. Well, we're back. We're deep in the summertime, and my favorite time of the year, because everybody knows that Uncle Larry's a tropical brother, and in the appropriation, our special guest tonight is actually from working in the state of Florida right now, and so we'll be talking about that. And had a very good time down there recently, and we're going to touch on that as well, and talk about all things leadership as usual. Hopefully, you're staying safe and hydrated and cool in this deep summer heat. I know I always laugh if you hear people like when it's deep in the summertime. People say, "Oh man." I'll be glad when winter time comes. And then when it's deep in the winter, it's 3 degrees below zero for 2 weeks. Man, bring back the summer. I'm consistent. I'm a tropical brother. I like warm weather. I don't care what nobody say. Now, let's get it straight. It doesn't have to be, I don't like either extreme. I don't like extreme cold. I don't like extreme hot. I don't want to walk around carrying deodorant in my pocket, got my wallet, got my keys, and got my deodorant. I don't want to have to do that. However, I'm going to choose warm. Yeah, I'm going to choose to have warm weather because I can sit out back. One day I'm going to do the show out back. I'm going to do it I'm on a new deck outside and just have nature, so we'll see what the birds are singing. They might poop on the computer, but we'll see how good the show is. Like, oh, damn, yeah. Get off my deck. So, but seriously, we're going to, but it's my favorite time of the year. I know our last episode, we had Ladies' Night, so we used to do that in the summertime. That was a pretty good episode with acting captain Jessica Jackson. By now has taken her captain's test, and I'm sure did a great job. She felt very confident going in and confident coming out, and it's all because of practice, more discipline, more practice. So we'll see how the results shake out, and if they shake out in her favor, and make sure hopefully the politics of a promotion exam doesn't, eat things up as usual, unfortunately. But let's just keep our fingers crossed and see. The people study, and then the powers to be a lot of times like, I don't like that. Let's throw it out and keep everybody in limbo until another one, So that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the people who stayed up studying countless nights and investing money and all the sacrifice to their personal life and families, only to be told, I don't think so. So we'll see how this shakes out. But she got some very good advice from Chief Yancey up in Baltimore City. And so that whole dynamic turned out real well for that show and got a lot of positive hits for that show, too. So anyway, I'm just very proud of when we do Ladies' Night, because it takes everybody and all viewpoints to make this a successful fire service for all, because we serve all. We should have that kind of representation on our respective departments, because that's who we serve. Um, we I wanted to also bring up too that just got through with finished my my portion of grading or helping decide who's coming to FDIC in 2025. I'm gonna tell you, man, it was tough this year. People are getting really good at submitting some great content for the conference. The unfortunate thing, we got like probably about 1,500 submissions, and we only got room for 300 classes. So trying to whittle that down was really challenging to do. So, but hats off to I didn't see too many bad ones at all, and so that being the case, it would be easy. We say, yeah, that was pretty bad. Let's kick that to the curb and let me usher in all these new ones. Couldn't hardly do it. There were some hard decisions to be made, and so going up to New Jersey soon, and in New Jersey we'll be having the educational board meeting to help make the final decisions, and then in the middle of August, guys and girls, cats and kittens, people will be getting stuff in the email, and it's like Christmas in July, or in this case, Christmas in August. And August. It'll be Christmas in August. Let me try that again. It'll be Christmas in August.
There's only 12 months, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
But anyway, when it's Christmas in August, they'll people get their letters. They'll get their letters, and when they get the letters, you get either the yay or the nay, and usually the Christmas in August or the yay. Be there in Indianapolis in April, God willing. However, if you get the nay, don't give up. Keep submitting. It's a whole lot of people didn't get it the first time out. Sometimes you got into it and didn't get it. You might have 10 years in and didn't get it for the 11th year. The key is keep submitting, keep trying, because Dave and I've been going for a minute. But the good thing I like about the FDIC submission process is you have to reapply every year like it's your first time. You can't just say, they know me. Let me just submit some BS and they'll probably accept it. You got to come. You got to do your research. You got to present. You got to show why it's important. You got to show your experience in teaching it. You got to show why you're a subject matter expert in this particular field. Because when people come to the big show, 36,000 firefighters taking over downtown Indianapolis and some of the outer parts, they're not coming there just because there's a bunch of mediocre content. They're coming there because the content has been vetted by some of the best in the world, coming to share all of this with all the firefighters who show up in Indianapolis. And for how much money it costs, it better be good. I'm telling you that. So we are very serious and intentional about this process. And when you're serious and intentional about the process and you get these kind of results, then you draw that kind of crowd, get that kind of learning. And when you get that kind of education and learning, then you take that back to your respective departments. And these are the things that make for a great fire service in America, because you got people who've dedicated to give you the best they have to offer. You take even a portion of that back and improve your fire department, then we're all better, faster, safer, and stronger. And I just think it's a good cycle. Go to FDIC, learn something, go back to your department, infuse it, make a better department, have a revelation. After the revelation, make a class out of it. Send the class in. When you send the class in, it gets accepted. It gets taught. Then it gets going back, and the cycle starts again. You see how that works? So keep submitting and keep fighting to come back to the big show. Now, if you don't get picked to teach, we still want you at the family reunion. Come through. Start putting your money away today. And if you got to save money, do like a lot of people have done. Get a few more people in the hotel room, get some cots, get some mattresses, get some sleeping bags, cut that cost down to like $36 a night or something like that. Get you some pork skins, some potato chips, some apples or oranges to carry you through the week. You're good. There's no excuse. Come through. Just make $37,000 this year, and you'll be glad you came. You'll be glad you came. So anyway, that's my spoof for FDIC. They tell you if you're going to be on this particular platform, you got to promote fire engineering the FDIC. Otherwise, they kick you off the platform. So we know better. We know what pays the bills around here. No, but seriously, no, I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it or believe it. It's that dynamic and that great of an experience. So come through. We'll see you in April 2025. So come through. So enough about that. What I want to get into tonight is Dave and I have a new friend. We like making new friends. We make new friends around the country, around the world. And when we get new friends, sometimes we get, new people we meet. And, right, you can take them or leave them, Very few people like that. But no, not this guy right here. This is Chief Wallentine. I had to practice that because I keep on saying, I'm sure he got that growing up, Valentine, So but his name is Wallentine, So. It's
just like Valentine, but with a W.
Yeah, right. I thought it was Valentine. That guy has heart.
Right.
Yes.
And then I looked at it. I thought I was saying double because he said there could be two V's together and make it Wallentine. I thought it was a typo of some sort, but it's Wallentine of the California Wallentines, So anyway, Chief Wallentine, we met him through a series of events. I think our friend Tim Dorsey kind of made that connection, and Tim Dorsey.
You came highly recommended.
Yeah, and Tim Dorsey. That's a whole nother show. Let's not get started on that. That had to be the Larry Conley show after dark. So we're gonna tune in. Have to have a rating for that show. We could get Tim Dorsey on. But anyway, nonetheless, we led us to Chief Wallentine, and we were able to go down. They're in the middle of doing some things that we're going to talk about tonight that similar. What we found out similar is that Paul and myself were actually in the same, kind of in the same boat, coincidentally in a lot of ways. And so in talking to him and getting to know him, he hails from Tucson. We'll get him to fill in all the details of everything he's accomplished and who he is. But, he comes out of Tucson after many years out there, came to Sarasota in 2022, and is a deputy chief in Sarasota, Florida. And and with me, I came from St. Louis, and instead of being near an ocean, I'm near a river, Mississippi River. It was just not as sexy as the Atlantic Ocean, but it is what it is, the Gulf of Mexico. But anyway, so we got similar paths, if you will, going to new agencies. The new agencies, when we came into these agencies, were great agencies already, and we're there to help continue to make it better and build on what they already started, and usher in some newer ideas on leadership and succession planning and things of that sort. And these are things we're going to talk about tonight. But I was amazed of the similarity. So one of the things we talked about as far as putting the show together is that if he and I are going through this similar situation of coming into a new agency and still trying to get your feet wet and seeing what direction you want to go in, and you're going to have some buy-in and some pushback and working around those nuances, how well can we do that? Maybe there are other people going through the same thing. And if they are, then hopefully you can glean some things from our experience so far, and then he and I can continue to learn from each other. Because what he don't know is that even new friends, I cash in on new friends sometimes. So the stuff I don't know, I'll be giving you a call, brother. So you have been warned.
I've got your number too.
Also, the similarities don't stop there. You guys look almost exactly alike. You're equally handsome. It's amazing. I'm surprised they haven't confused you. Confused you.
Yeah. That's one thing they told me was a qualification when I got to Collinsville. There's a couple of other guys applying too, and they were very ugly guys. So I was, they was like, "You're the one." I'm like, thank you, appreciate it. I'll take. So anyway, tonight we're going to talk about our new friend, Chief Darin Wallentine. He is out of Tucson, loving it in Sarasota, Florida right now. Looks like he's already taking on the whole Florida tan thing. And you know, this day when I was there, I know he's a very fit guy too. Did you know that?
Yeah, absolutely.
He works out. He's tanned and toned, and you know, you just don't get that in Chief IAs these days. You know, they usually something else. I don't want to interpret it. Yeah, so tanned and toned.
Until you bought into the Florida lifestyle, so I gotta represent. So
obviously, I was waiting for him to do. We wait for a rescue, like you do some Baywatch stuff and run in slow motion toward the ocean and do a rescue of some sort. But we weren't there long enough for that, you know. So anyway, let's talk to our new friend. First of all, Chief, let's get started. Tell us. We know you a little bit, and we sure people out there and who the thousands upon thousands of people who watch this podcast, we want them to get to know who you are too. So give us a little history, what inspired you to even get in the fire service, where'd you spend most of your time, what were your responsibilities, and how'd you end up down in Sarasota, Florida, you lucky guy, because love beautiful downtown Collinsville. If you said Collinsville, Florida, or Collinsville, Illinois, I think I'm being insulted by myself. I think most people pick Collinsville, Florida. I'm just saying, you know, but unless you're one of those people who love cold weather, you know, you pick Collinsville, South Dakota or something, but you know, but I'm in the middle now. I'm in the middle. I'm not in Collinsville, South Dakota. I'm not in Collinsville, Florida, but Collinsville, Illinois, it's a nice mix right here, you know. So anyway, tell us the story, Chief.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks to all of you for having me on the podcast. It's an honor, and it was a tremendous blessing to have you guys down here in Sarasota to take us through your workshop, and so there are many similarities, Larry. That it's very cool to see, you know, others around the country that are doing very similar things. So my fire service journey began way back in the early 90s when I was getting ready to graduate from college. I was living with my wife, well, then my girlfriend, but now my wife of more than 30 years. We lived in Southern California. I started working for Orange County Fire Authority because a friend of mine suggested that firefighters only work 10 days a month and the other 20 I can play golf. So I thought that math really kind of added up, but didn't quite work out exactly that way. But I got my start down in Orange County, California as a paid call firefighter, which gave me the opportunity to test around the West, and finally got the call from Tucson in 1996. So I spent a little over 25 years with the Tucson Fire Department. I rose through the ranks from firefighter to paramedic on to captain, and then promoted to battalion chief. And as my time with Tucson was starting to come to a close, I was the deputy chief of safety and wellness. And so that gave me some huge opportunities to kind of broaden out the work that I was doing in the fire service. Things that are much more meaningful, that was in addition to, the tremendous opportunity to be a firefighter, which, and everybody says the same thing. It's, you never, you're not working. It's more of a calling, So with my opportunity in Tucson, I got to participate in a variety of other external sorts of things. So first of all, got to work on the firefighter cancer cohort study with our friends over at the University of Arizona and the University of Miami, as well as NIOSH and CDC. And so that was some very influential sort of groundbreaking research studies that we had the opportunity to participate in. In a similar sort of a way, I had a tremendous opportunity to be elected to the Safety, Health, and Survival Board of the International Association of Fire Chiefs, of which I still serve on that board, which gave me the opportunity to meet a whole bunch more firefighters across the country and be able to network. And so giving that, sort of emphasis in a career that it's a very large occupation, but it's a very small, close-knit, somebody who knows somebody within the fire service. So I'm not sure if we want to do the Tim Dorsey After Dark here anytime soon, but, it's, when we started talking about succession planning and leadership here in Sarasota, you guys came highly recommended. So, so for a variety of reasons, when I retired from Tucson in 2022, I got the tremendous opportunity to come out here to Sarasota County to become the Deputy Chief of Administration. It's a large organization, and being the admin chief, I get to oversee things like training and the fire marshal's office and public education, the logistics section with capital projects and our warehouse and fleet, and then also overseeing administrative staff. And then with my background was to bring best practices and the things that are being done, in the safety, health, and wellness aspect to the department and to build upon what they've already started here in the west coast of Florida. So it's a big difference between the deserts of Tucson and Sarasota County. There's a lot more water here as opposed to a lot of cactus and things that bite you, out in the desert in the Southwest.
Right.
So, but it's a tremendous opportunity. It's a growing organization, and it's only going to get bigger because all of Florida is exploding, because everybody wants to move here, which I feel fortunate to have landed here in Sarasota County.
Yeah, Sarasota is really, from the little parts that we saw, it's a really nice community, nice, real scenic community for what I can see. And so it's got to be nice to just, drive around a couple of places we drove around to, going to eat and things like that. It's like a really nice view. So that's got to be cool to wake up to all the time, and see. So similar, got a lot of similarities. I came on the job in 1992 and stayed with St. Louis Fire Department for 30 years. And in that 30 years, rose up through the ranks to fire captain, and then got the opportunity for Collinsville and went to apply and had to do a series of things to for the application process. And in the application process, was fortunate enough to get chosen for this position. They created this position because Collinsville is growing, and they're expecting a lot of new commerce in Collinsville. They're going to build 2 new fire stations. One is in the works as we speak. And by being a growing community with some major industry that's slated to land there, they needed to step the fire department up to match what's coming. Right now, it's a great fire department with a great bunch of firefighters. And with the firefighters there, you got some that are now retiring. And so now we got new blood that's rising up through the ranks. And with that kind of succession planning, you got to pay attention to that, because if you don't, you'll do what some agencies I know or have done. They've held on to the old guard for so long, and there's a gap between what the old guard knows and what the new guard needs to know. And if the old guard dies off, quits, retires, whatever, leave by anything, the new guard is going to be kind of floundering to figure things out until they get themselves together. And so we learned about the importance of succession planning a few years back when we had Chief Craig Haig on. Chief Haig is a fire chief out of Hanover Park, Illinois, and we went up there to do our personal leadership workshop there, and formed a pretty good friendship with him as well. But in the middle of that, Craig Haig, we had him on the show, and he was talking about one of his initiative was an aggressive succession planning model that he was working on, and he hadn't planned on being there forever. And when he retired, it just went real smooth. We already identified who's next. And even if you can't totally identify who's next, you can identify what the responsibilities and the vision is. And then who's ever ready to step into that can take that and keep things running smooth without there's a gap between the person who retires and then the person who's to catch up to speed, So it was exciting.
Well, it's one of those things, and I think we probably touched on it maybe a little bit in either our side conversations or in the workshops, but I think that it's really important as chief officers and leading these organizations that if you're not training the person to take your job, you're not doing your job.
Right.
And so I think there's a challenge that we all have in the fire service is that, we do a really good job of training firefighters, but then once they get through the organization and they start to rise through the ranks, mentoring tends to be something that kind of, it only exists maybe within, a few folks within the department. And that's something that we're trying to emphasize in Sarasota County, is that we want to start bringing up the leaders so that they can take this organization and lead it, after the guy from Tucson leaves and after the fire chief from Orange County Fire Rescue, has put his stamp on the department, and Chief Dorsey from Missouri. And, sorry about that. And then just a matter of just being able to raise people through the organization to be able to lead it into the future.
Breathing in diesel exhaust fumes is like walking into a fire without a mask. Over time, that exposure leads to cancer. Protect yourself with MagnaGrip. To learn more, visit magnagrip.com.
Mm-hmm. No, most definitely. We're all of our chief officers, our fire chief and our chief operations, we all come from Missouri. And we've always been there a short period of time. The fire chief was there maybe a year or two before our chief of ops, and then our chief of ops was there like 7-8 months before I got there. So we all brand new from Missouri with our vast experiences and trying to help guide. The vision is to help guide the Collinsville Fire Department to be ready for the newcomers, new business, and new onslaught, because you can't have all of that but then have a fire department designed for when it wasn't that. So it has to be designed to keep up with the demand. You're going to have more census with more people, more industry. More industry means more unique ways to figure out how do we mitigate emergencies in this new facility. That's going to be brand new, So to have a dedicated training division will help with that. And so with being in charge of training and safety, not only have to do the day to day, but I have to keep that future macro picture. And I got to stay at 30,000 feet. And sometimes I got to come down and, be in the woods as well. So it's a dynamic process because you can't stay here. You can't stay here. You got to find that balance between hovering enough to know what direction we're going, but down in the weeds enough to motivate the troops to follow the vision, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like a tightrope.
And it's an interesting, and I know probably for you too, Larry, going into a new organization, when I got here to Sarasota, I was welcomed like I had been a part of this organization for the last 20 years, which that's a testament to the people that are here in this department.
Sure.
I know that's probably not the case in all departments, but in this particular case, it was something that I recognized very early, that they were very open. They were hungry for leadership, and it was something that really helps keep me motivated to be able to do things like invite you all to Sarasota to bring another perspective on leadership and succession planning, and putting the tools in the toolbox for our company officers and our chief officers so that they can lead this organization into the future.
Yeah, most definitely. And that's absolutely correct. And I had a similar experience. I mean, everybody was very welcoming. What can I help you with? Getting me to learn the culture in Collinsville, and with that culture, how can we take that culture and build on it and make things even better than what they are, and so we won't be left behind. And I've been fortunate enough to not only work there, but also bring in a few national names too to help speak to the organization, the surrounding areas as a whole. So we try to do a series where yearly I bring in a national name yearly to kind of discuss some of the things that I think is important to the fire service. To not only to the fire service, but our fire department. We've had Rick Lassie come through. He did a great job. We had Billy Goldfeather last year come through. And this year we're working on Dr. David Griffin. And so with these lineups, I'm trying to make sure that we infuse, because a lot of guys and gals in the Collinsville Fire Department were like me. They see these names, they admire, they watch them online, they read their articles and stuff like that. So to be able to bring them to our department and to our mix and have something a custom message delivered for them, it's a huge boost for the morale and everything like that. So I'm blessed to be able to have that connection, not only work still in my community, but still have that national reach to where we can make those type of connections,
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to talking about FDIC and, 37,000 firefighters in Indianapolis, that's one of the things that, was very obvious when I got here to Sarasota, that there might have been a few people who were getting out to some of these national, conferences. But the networking at these conferences are vital for firefighters to make the connections, because if you don't got the answer, there's somebody out there who does. And if you build that network, you're going to be much more successful in being able to, keep moving the organization forward. And if you've got Billy Goldfeather on your speed dial, then, it's very impactful for the people in your organization.
And it's cool because these people are so influential, got so much knowledge that can help. And the one thing I like about it, I don't know any other industry, but I like in our industry, period, when you do get a person like you said, Billy Goldfeather or Rick Lasky, you can just call them and they answer or get back to you or something like that. The beautiful thing about that is none of these people have the kiss the ring mentality. And I love that. I love how, they can just be down to earth, tell you what you need, send you. I mean, Forrest Reader, one of my dearest friends, the reason I rely on Forrest so much is because, I not only have the books on my shelf that he wrote, but the fact of the matter is that Forrest is a down to earth person. But the reason I rely on him so much because he did all of his career in Illinois. So, of course, he knows the ins and outs of Illinois where, I might ask you something, and though it may be useful in the fire service in general, and definitely I'm going to take portions of that. Some of the bullseye stuff I need to know probably is best from Forrest and other leaders I know in Illinois because, they grew up here. So, and I'm getting to learn the Illinois way coming from Missouri, so. So with that being the case, they just, what do you need? I asked Forrest for like one question. And before I get off the phone, he said, check your email. And my Dropbox is like, I need more storage because he done drop, drop some stuff in my box, so he's like, but he's like that, and then he'll call me back. Did you get through all that? But damn, Forrest is big, I got 10,000 more pages, but I appreciate it, so, overachiever,
and that's one of the things that once you've made those connections, I mean, everybody is so generous. Generosity is just kind of at the heart of everybody who's in the fire service. That's typically why all of us decide that this is our career path. Is that in public service, and and then the time spent in the stations, it's like family, but you get to have influence, in responding and taking care of people on their worst day. But it's that ongoing opportunity that to pay back that generosity is something that I think it's at the heart of most people that are in this career field.
Yeah, definitely. Let me ask you a question. We know we touched on it when we were down there teaching, and we kind of talked about it in succession with a whole lot of stuff. But I know we're trying to find ways, and I know we're doing a similar thing in Collinsville, trying to really empower our company officers and empowering your company officer. And I still think it to this day. I mean, the rank doesn't mean anything for me as far as changing my mind. But the company officer, in my opinion, is the most influential officer in the fire service. I mean, you got your chiefs, you got, but the company officer is the most influential. I mean, because you got the balance of trying to support the organization, vision and things like that. And you have to also be accountable to your crew. So you got that balance in that. You can't lose the crew because you need the support of the crew. So they need to know that you got them. But you can't, ignore administration, because what comes down from downtown needs to be honored as well. So you're kind of in the middle. You can't side with the crew and say, yeah, that sucks. But you can't be here in administration and say, let's beat them up. So you so you got to stand in the gap. They should call it gap officer. That's what they should call it, because you're always in the gap. We're going to workshop called gap officer. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. It takes the most crap. The gap.
One in the gap.
Yeah. But anyway, that's another class. But anyway, you got to stand in the gap, and you got to do it skillfully. So you got the confidence of administration, and you got the confidence of your crew, and you really can't lose any of them. What are your thoughts on that company officer's role in that regard, controlling the culture and the narrative of that engine house, that kitchen table, the whole thing, and then walking that balance between the demands of administration and the needs of the crew? How you feel about that?
So going back a few years, in Tucson, we had a captain certification process, and it was day one of the expectations of what the department is going to expect from their company officer, you hear that same statement that the company officer has the most influence in the entire department. And at the time, I really didn't comprehend it because I wasn't one yet, nor was I, having the benefit of having been a captain and then promote to a chief officer to really understand that it is the company officer in that station who will have the most influence over the rank and file of the firefighters that are within the department. Because we all know that every problem within the department can get solved at the kitchen table, right? And so with that company officer, the health and the culture of the department, the morale is going to live and die at your lieutenant or your captain ranks who have the direct influence of the firefighting personnel in your department. Now, I've heard others mention what's the most important role of a captain or a company officer or a lieutenant. And this goes back to Gordon Graham. And he says the most important role is to enforce the policies set forth by the department, because those policies are there for a reason. Most of them are safety related. They're going to keep you out of trouble. And if you're taking care of your people by being the boss, then the wheels on the bus will go round and round, and you're going to have a healthy fire station, a healthy district, a healthy department, because the company officers, when they pin that badge on, they know that they have a responsibility as a supervisor, and the part about the supervisor, and we learned this very thing in your Empower model in the workshop, is that you got to get to know your people. If you don't know your people, you're lost. And it's also the whole conversation that we can have about the buddy to boss phenomenon. You're either going to be their friend or you're going to be their boss. If you choose one, you're probably going to lose them. If you choose the other, you're going to gain their respect. They may not like it all the time, but it's going to be so much more successful in your position and the influence that you have. Because I think we all know there's going to be a leader at the fire station. I'm expecting and I'm hoping that it is the company officer. But if it's not the company officer, it's going to be somebody who's going to try to take control away from that person who's supposed to be in charge. So
right.
It is
guys, no, go ahead and finish, Chief. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying it doesn't matter if it's in Tucson or Collinsville or Sarasota County. You can walk into any fire department across the country, and it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same sort of circumstances. It's just different people.
Yep.
And again, I'm a big believer now today is that the company officer will make it or break it.
Definitely.
Elaine, what were you going to say?
Married, you said, right?
Yeah, he's
married. So how disruptive was it for you to relocate? How did your wife take it? Or how was?
She said, Florida, let's go.
She said,
you didn't
actually. Yeah, so it was quite a long drive from Arizona to Florida. So way back in the day, I had made a suggestion to my wife, Teresa, that what do you think about Florida? If there's ever a time, our time in Tucson is coming to a close, what do you think about Florida? Because I've had an opportunity to work alongside other Florida firefighters in the cancer studies and some of the other safety related topics. And she said, no way, because we had visited Orlando in the summer and that was an absolute no-go. So it's interesting how this all turned out because at the time, back in early 2022, we started looking at my career path in Tucson. And then my son and daughter-in-law made us grandparents for the first time, and they were living in Valdosta, Georgia. Our daughter was going to college in Virginia, and our other daughter was living in the Midwest. And so for us, we were in Tucson with no kids and empty nests, and so there was a big pull for us to start looking more East Coast or Eastern U.S. And so what ended up happening was a series of opportunities, applying for different positions. Sarasota County popped up, and I applied. And within a week, I had an interview. Within 10 days, I think I had my second Teams interview, a virtual interview, and then they asked me to come out for an in-person interview a week later. So over the course of about 3 weeks, I found myself with a job offer, having to then retire from Tucson, put our house up on the market to sell, and then move all the way across the country, because that put us then 4 hours away from driving up to Georgia to visit our grandbaby. So that was the family tug, the pull to being here in Sarasota, not to mention the tremendous opportunity to move up, in the organization, in the fire service organization, to be able to be a deputy chief. Plus, when we visited Sarasota on the day that I was doing my all-day interview, it's beautiful. We fell in love with the place, and we just kind of pinch ourselves every day that we're really here. We really live here.
Right. Hey, stop talking like that. I'm gonna be like, I'm out of here.
Right.
then Dave, you see me appear on the screen with Chief. Be like,
right next to him. How do you get that fast?
We're growing, Larry. They can. Don't tell your boss in Collinsville that we do have an opening or two that you might fit very well at Sarasota County. So.
Maybe you do, and maybe you don't. Right.
I'll holler.
Okay.
Going back to
David, what was you going to say?
Yeah, going back to the thing we were talking about, advancing in rank. I'm just thinking. And this is, I guess, for both of you guys. You guys have gone from being, firefighters to company officers to command level officers. But what is I'll ask this a different way. Everybody seems to understand when you say, hey, listen, if you accept this company officer position, for instance, what comes with that is the responsibility of being that, sort of in the middle person who understands that they have to have this responsibility, but also keep the morale up with the group and reinforce some of the regulations and that kind of thing. They understand that they would have that responsibility. So people say, yeah, of course, I got it. Give me the badge, give me the rank, give me the check, whatever. But when you get there, it's a different thing. So what would you say is the disconnect between the academic understanding of it and the actual execution of that boss now from buddy? You know what I mean? That of executing that relationship effectively. What's the challenge in that for new company ops?
So I'll just say that as a new company officer, it's getting to know your people, figuring out what makes them tick. Taking a personal interest in the things that they have on their horizon, seeing their potential before they ever see it. And so I think that I've heard one of the things that Chief Alan Brumasini, when somebody asked him about what do you do as a fire chief? Well, most of the time he's just a cheerleader. He's just out there telling people that here's what I expect. I want you to take care of our people. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna be nice. We're gonna take care of Mrs. Smith. And it's not really any more difficult than that. But the only way that we can take care of Mrs. Smith is that if we are taking care of our people, and that's making sure that we're following policies, that we're following our standard operating procedures, and that we are leading our people in the in the framework of being that frontline supervisor. So every firefighter will come through the ranks and they will have a mental checklist of, the good company officers that they have and the not so good. And hopefully it's those individuals who have the emotional ability and the intelligence to be able to filter out the bad and implement the things that were done well on their behalf when they had a good captain or a good lieutenant that led their crew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to kind of even add more to that, because that was a lot of times going to be the basis of how I feel, how I have felt and still feel. When I used to do recruit class, I used to ask them, what business are we in? And they say, we're firefighters, we're firefighting, fighting fires. And I say, yeah, that's true to a point, but really we're in the people business. And we just happen to have a special set of skills to help people. But in order to truly help the people we don't know, we got to take care of the people that we do know. And the people we do know is your family at the firehouse. And I just feel like when you do that, really are intentional about doing that, really intentional about making sure that, you know your people as much as you can without, crossing over to maybe places they don't want you to be, but that's okay. Respect their boundaries and things like that. But when you are a person who's concentrating on that, it makes the team stronger. And then that habit of taking care of each other, the people you do know, I think primes you to better take care of the people that you have yet to meet in the street. And what's even more challenging is that the people that you do know are the frequent flyers. The frequent flyer that you got to get this guy. We had one guy in every scene. It seemed like, I'm sure it wasn't every, but looked like at least maybe once a cycle when we worked our shift. You knew at 2:37 a.m. he was going to get the call because he needed to be picked up off the floor. Because about the time he go to the bathroom, sometimes he made it, sometimes he didn't. But when he didn't, he hit the life alert thing. We have to go pick him up off the floor and put him back in the bed. But you had to be brand new each time. You couldn't show up talking about, oh man, your ass again. You couldn't have that attitude. You had to show up brand new each time. So that took a little more of a mental trick to do a lot of times than meeting new people and new challenges, because you get so used to what the routine is to the point that you almost are dismissive without even trying. It's 2:37 in the morning. You showing up. You got to pick them up. The apartment when it comes over the dispatch. We take our master key. We get in there. There he is, in pretty much the same place between the bathroom and the bedroom. And he's not being, and he's actually being nice about it. I'm so sorry, guys, whatever. But hey, what about the person who act like you supposed to be here? What took y'all so long? Next time, whatever. And now you got to be nice even then. That's when you really get tested, So my point is, if it's something as simple as picking somebody off the floor or running into a burning building to make a rescue, each one of them requires your care for people you don't know, but it's mastered by how you take care of business at the firehouse with people that you do know. So
and
that's how I look
feel
at
that,
it.
but I guess I'm also asking, how do you navigate that prophet gets no honor in his own land thing? So we're all on the same team as firefighters, and then I get promoted to company officer position, and now I'm your supervisor. But y'all know Dave. So then it's how do I now, I guess, toe the departmental line while maintaining the relationships I had with people who might, now Darin thinks Dave is a sellout because he's Captain Dave now, as opposed to, what I mean? And so I go from being Dave to call me Mr. Tit, what I mean? So it's just, how do you navigate that where you are able to gain that respect now as a company officer where before, you guys might have been buddies, for lack of a better term.
It's not, it is, it is not an easy proposition, So I know that in my career, most of the time, the promotions to captain or the promotions to the company officer position, hopefully you're not promoted within the same station of which you were peers with, the rest of the firefighters, that been given an opportunity to build your knowledge base as a new captain or new lieutenant, without having the dynamics of being promoted within a station of which you had been working alongside, and now you're their boss. That's a tough proposition, and it's happened, but it's something that you have to be a really confident individual to be able to own it, so it's one of those, you just don't know what you're going to get until you're put into that position as a new company officer, and you might have to have those tough conversations. And it's been my experience that most of the time when relationships get off track, it's because there are different expectations. I have an expectation of you, and you have an expectation of me, which is no different than with my wife or my kids. And it is even more vitally important in the work environment that you establish those expectations early when you get promoted to company officer. That way, it's those tough conversations early will hopefully prevent the very difficult conversations later when somebody is challenging you as a supervisor because you happen to be friends on your days off. So,
yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And their practice is where it works for in St. Louis. It had worked in St. Louis as well. If you work in that particular firehouse, I don't care if it's a captain's opening, they will move you just to kind of make that easier transition. Because if one day you cleaning the toilets with the guys and next day you supervise cleaning the toilet, it's going hard for some people to make that transition with you like, oh, well, now you ain't got to touch the toilet. And I never tried to be the kind of person that, if it needs to be clean, I walk past it, I'll start. And usually by the time I start, somebody going to run in there, hey, what are you doing? That kind of deal. But if you've done it right, I think what worked for me, and I didn't have to do it a lot, but maybe with a few people, I just had to have that genuine conversation. Hey, can we talk? And then, maybe I had a general conversation in the kitchen with the whole crew, and maybe I had individual conversations a la carte, depending on the relationship that I already have with people. And I would just let them know, hey, it's a new position. And let me be upfront. It's scary. I'm not really scared of a lot of things, but this is scary. And I just want you to know that I'm not scared because I'm scared of the challenge. It's scary because now I don't want the dynamics of us to change so much that it interferes with our established friendship. I want it to be as amicable as possible for us to work together. If I have to be in a position to tell you something that you may not want to do, or may eventually have to write you up for something, which I'm going to try to avoid at all costs, but don't put me in a position that I might have to do that. So if you're my friend or if you're my buddy and now I'm the boss or whatever the case may be, let's form this kind of, little pact, partnership, pinky swear that we're going to work the best we can to serve each other. I'm going to watch your back, you watch mine. We're going to serve these citizens and say, hey, on our days off, if we want to grab a beer and shoot the crap, we can do that. But where we are, let's make sure we play these positions the best way we can for the greater good of everything. And I'm going to tell you, I've been blessed in that regard because some of the friends that I've had that be their boss, but I was their buddy too. they got the memo that if they're going to work for me that day, that they work harder, get there earlier and get there early and leave late, better than the people who I really just know or not that close to. And if you are truly my friend, you won't put me in that position. Or if somebody becomes my boss, I'm going to try to serve them the best way I can because I'm their friend for real. Mm-hmm. So once we kind of understand that dynamic and we just had that honest, genuine, organic conversation, I think at the beginning, before it's not addressed and the elephant in the room gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now you got to do the uncomfortable thing of addressing them or writing them up or something like that. Hit it in the teeth early. Be a little vulnerable with it and let them know this is what we're trying to do. And when you do that, I just think it lessens the chance of being in these awkward positions that Buddy the boss can put you in. So
I'm hearing you say punch him in the teeth early.
Right.
No, listen. We teach when we go around the country personal leadership. So I guess another good sort of follow-up question is: do you think that there's a significant impact on that phenomenon we just got through talking about by you having a very good personal leadership paradigm when you're a firefighter and you haven't yet to be promoted? If you have that great personal leadership paradigm and everybody comes to know you as the person who has that and who, therefore inspires in that way because you have that, does that impact in any way, positive or negative? I'd like to hear your thoughts on both. When you get that promotion, does that personal leadership paradigm that you will have been internalizing and showing as a firefighter now translate to any sort of significant difference or impact with you as a company officer?
So there was a time when I was in Tucson and I was finishing up in fact, going even back to my time as a paramedic, finishing my probation as a paramedic. And before I was going to be going out into, I was going to be what they call them swingers, but here in Sarasota, they call them floater.
Let's just stick to the firefighting.
All right, we'll keep that. So here in Sarasota, we call them floaters. All right, they are floaters. You float from station to station. And my preceptor said, "Here's all the things that you got to do before you go out to work at all these different stations." Mm-hmm. And I said, "You know what, Fred? I'll know because of who I am and the reputation that I've built thus far, that when I am competent, I'm confident in what I'm doing, and I'm compassionate, and I'm getting along well with my crew. If I show up at a fire station and people are looking to bang out and get a vacation or call in sick when I show up, I know I'm doing something wrong, right?" Mm-hmm. So, and if I show up and people are happy to see that I'm showing up to be on the truck that day, at least I can sense that what I'm doing is bringing value to that crew for that particular day. So, we all have those people that you work with and they're challenging. And when you pull in the parking lot and you see their vehicle parked in the parking lot, it's like, it is going to be a long 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long day. I didn't want to be the guy whose vehicle's parked in the parking lot and people pulling in going, "Oh, crap, Darin's here today. It's going to be a long day." So there's that reputation that's really, really, I would say it's simpler to maintain a good reputation because you get the job done, you give the extra effort. You're always the one who's jumping in to be the first to, get the phone or, whatever, helping out with the meals, out rolling hose and cleaning the hose after fire. But if you tarnish that reputation, it is so difficult in the fire service to get that back. It's really hard to recover from from somebody who's, kind of stained their own reputation within the station. And then we know firefighters, you tell one, you tell them all, right?
Mhm.
So that it gets around. So it's just one of those, it was really good advice early on when I was a young paramedic, but I think at that time I knew that, hey, you know what? It's easier to keep a good reputation than it is to recover from a bad one.
Mhm. No, that's true. And go ahead, Mom.
No, I'm going back home to the house. And so I still was kind of curious about the transition and going to a new place and moving up, being promoted, and the impact it had on the family, and did you have to, how did your wife take it? And what advice would you give to someone who has, a wife and children, or just you and your wife?
Yeah.
And they're being disruptive as well. Their life is being changed. And so,
Yeah,
and sometimes
absolutely.
even though it's something that's, a credit to you and a move up for you, sometimes it can get a little tricky and a little sticky with that being a mutual thing with your spouse.
So I really like that question because we spend.
I try to. I don't want to try to top them, but
so far you've talked a couple times. I'm just saying. So the one thing that, and I'm going to kind of tangent this just a little bit. For a third of our lives as firefighters, we're at the fire station, and we call those people family. 2/3 of our lives are spent at home, oftentimes either recovering, sleeping, getting ready to go back for that next shift. It's a great career, for the family. We get paid pretty well. We have great benefits. We have a lot of time off where we get to travel with our family and have, the days off that we can spend with, and your kids, and so it's all great. But there's a big but right there. Is that early on, I don't. There's a clear understanding of what it's like to be a spouse of a firefighter. And I don't think that a lot of spouses have a clear understanding about what it's going to be like to be a single parent for 24 hours at a time while your spouse is at the fire station. And you're taking, and in my case, with our 3 kids, my wife was a single parent for a third of the year. And we're talking holidays, and we're talking about, doctor's appointments and shopping. And so it is a huge responsibility as the spouse of a firefighter. So when we moved here to Sarasota, for one thing, my wife was elated that we were able to move closer to the grandbaby. That was a big cherry on top for us, is being able to drive 4 hours up to Georgia to be able to visit our new granddaughter. But I think that there was an element too where it's important that we got connected into the community. We have a church that's 5 minutes from our house that we're a part of, and we got connected really quickly, with our church. Friends within the department, our fire chief, who started just a few months after, I started in Sarasota. He and his wife, we would get together. We've played pickleball. We've gone out to dinner. And now the fire chief's wife and my wife, have stayed connected and have spent time while me and the fire chief are at work. And, so it's that connections that are vitally important, because again, it is not easy to be the spouse of a firefighter, and we're not always very happy when we get home after being up at 2:30 in the morning to lift, the frequent flyer up off of the floor, and we get home and all we want to do is go to bed. But there's a lot to it, so for me, I'm very intentional when I start to think about what we can do on, for our firefighters. So recruit training, it's oftentimes a very good idea to bring the spouses or the significant others in to have a very frank conversation about what it's like to be, at home for 24 hours at a time.
That's pretty good.
So that, and then we've also invited spouses to be on some of the committees, when we're starting to, for health and wellness and things that we want to, optimize for firefighters is, we want the spouse's perspective. And obviously we don't want the spouse and the firefighter on the committee because we don't want to, have them air their dirty laundry in the midst of the, that sort of thing. But it's really great to get, a spouse's perspective on what the impact of possible changes, on the firefighter's career, so hopefully that answered a lot of that.
Yeah, because that was a kind of a big relocation because you didn't move like next door, right?
No.
And so, and I thought that was kind of cool that you said you found out what one incentive was because you were closer to your grandbaby. And so if you were talking to somebody else who had been invited, if you will, to be promoted, but those the kind of things to kind of use as an incentive to go to make it easier for you to make the transition.
Well, and one of the additional things which I haven't mentioned is that my youngest daughter just got married in May, and lo and behold, my son-in-law's family, they have a second home here in Bradenton, which is just minutes from our house. And so now we're almost best friends with our in-laws, and I'd say they are our best friends at this point. So it's really kind of I would say it's very fortunate, but I think that there's God's plans kind of in the midst of all of that, where now that I got my daughter married and a son-in-law, and now we got a whole other side of family that's actually spending a lot of time here in the Sarasota area. So that's been a big thing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Yeah, it's all, you got to take care of both families. You got to take care of your family at home, and you got to take care of your family at the firehouse. And that's another episode of taking care of people before, it's a good example of taking care of people you really don't know or still getting to know. I know when we were talking earlier, one of the things that I thought about when we were talking about how easy it is to make that transition, I think, to David's point, when you do and that's why we used to always teach and still teach that before you get the badge, your personal leadership is important. Before you get the badge, your whole dynamic of how you operate, do you show up on time? Are you dependable? Are you a supportive team player? You keep your uniform up, you keep your training up, you keep all this kind of company pride and self-pride as up as possible. So that way, when you do become a company officer or get promoted, nobody is really looking at things as negative. Somebody's always going to have something to say, but you got less negativity because nobody is saying, oh, well, you barely showed up to work and you got it. I guess you got lucky getting promoted. And then you get promoted. It's going to be hard to follow you because they've seen, 10 years of mediocrity. And they see 10 years of mediocrity, and then you just happen to get promoted, then, well, why do I want to follow mediocrity? They're going to have to show and prove for me to want to follow them. But if you was the kind of person that was like that anyway, you probably going to hear stuff like that couldn't happen to a better person. Hey, where they going to station you at? I'm going to see, can I put in to go with you? Or whatever those cases may be, because I'm dealing with that now with my good friend Jessica. Jessica is going to be promoted because I know she did great on the test, but she already got people saying, "Hey, when you get promoted, give me a call because I want to come work for you," because her work ethic is outstanding. Now, without any incentive, no official leadership position, just the work ethic she already has. So they figure if she's this good as a private, she's definitely going to be great as a company officer. So she didn't need the gold badge to solidify her leadership. And when you got that mastered, it just makes that transition a little easier because you already kind of have a following anyway, you know.
And it sounds like she's already a leader in her own right. So
She is.
now it's official, you know. So
yeah, now you can make it official. Yeah, do it before it's official, and then if you've been if you've been official, you're gonna be great when you official. You see what I did there?
That was nice.
I put the issues, and I just thought of that right there. It's a gift. I don't know where it came from, but anyway, doing
the Trojan horse was a gift.
We're gonna start kind of winding down, but I didn't want to get out of here. Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to get out of here without asking a few questions about. We came down to Sarasota. I know this is your first time seeing what we do, and so to kind of get your impression. Because one thing that you and the fire chief did that continues to impress us when we go around the country. We have shown up at places where the fire chief said, "Hey, welcome. They're in there." And then we go in there, we do the class, and we take a break. They sit in the office. I'm sure they're doing something extremely important. I'm sure they're reinventing something or whatever. But they'll say, "How are they doing in there?" And I'll say, "They're doing great." "Good. Let me know how it turns out because they really need it." And then they're back in the office. They may peep their head in and whatever. But we do have a lot of fire chiefs who they sit through the class, they go through the paces with them, they do everything with them, and they know firsthand what's happening, what you're getting, and then it makes it easier for everyone to be on the same page with the nuggets you might want to take. Because you don't take everything from a class and say, we're going to all do all of this. You take little nuggets from each one. You got people who came before us, you got us, you got other people coming, and you put together this great puzzle that's going to be great for Sarasota County to take you guys into the future. But for our contribution into your succession and leadership planning and leadership empowerment, give us your take on, the experience, so to speak.
So I will say that our fire chief, David Rathbun, who's spent vast majority of his career over at Orange County Fire Rescue over in Orlando area, he's been very intentional in implementing and designing a pathway for succession planning. And so we have a officer development twice a year. So you guys got to follow Gordon Graham on one that we held in December. So that was a tough one to follow. But when we reached out and we had some of those early discussions, Chief Rathbun and myself were confident that what you're going to bring to the table was going to be value to the firefighters or our lieutenants, our captains, chief officers here in Sarasota County. Because the way we look at it was we're investing in them. Whether they view that or not, we are making an investment in them so that they can turn around and, not only lead our department, but also, deliver the service that we expect, to the customers here and the visitors here in Sarasota County. So when you guys arrived, it was all hands, all of our uniformed personnel were expected to attend, and it was no different from the fire chief to myself and the other deputy chief, Ian Emmons, and then the rest of our assistant chiefs right on down the line. Everybody was expected to attend. And so you can't be a good leader unless you're a good follower, right? Mm-hmm. So it was very intentional on our part that, it's not, hey, we're going to have Larry and David go fix our people. It was something we were looking forward to you bringing your curriculum and your workshop, so that again our officers can pull out those nuggets of information to lead this department in the future. And so we will continue to bring subject matter experts, here to Sarasota County to invest in our people. But I would say that the morning session, I was there for both days, and I picked up things on day 2 that I didn't quite catch on day 1. Maybe it's just because I'm a slow learner sometimes. I don't know. But definitely it was nice to see the 2 different dynamics, across both of those days, where I know that in this one, our day 1 was a little bit more reserved, less involved, but day 2 seemed to be a different story, where they got tipped off that, hey, it's going to be better if you get involved, or it was just a different group. So I was very proud of our officers who attended, and hopefully there is something that each one of them can take away, back to their stations and maybe even back to their own personal lives to make it much more valuable than just a workshop that we suggest for them. So
good stuff. We hopefully the message that came across is that no matter what the scenario or what the situation, your personal leadership is what it is. It's personal. It's you, and the better you become a better person, the better firefighter, lieutenant, chief, captain you become, because people tend to I want to be a good captain. Well, if you haven't taken care of the foundation of the base of being a good you, that's eventually going to poison or ruin the captain position. So you got to really constantly work on that good person part, or person of integrity, character, and things of that sort. Take care of that personal leadership, so you can you can complement that position, lieutenant, captain, or whatever. But if you suck as a person, you're going to make that position suck. There's no getting around it. And you might fake it try to make it initially, but it's eventually going to catch up with you if that's the MO. So we got to make sure that our message is always, you may not, sometimes people may come across and say, well, was it really something that I didn't really learn any tricks to manipulate and manage people? And then we always say, well, we didn't hear for, we ain't a magic show. We ain't here for the tricks. So you could manipulate people. We want you to look in the mirror of you. And when you look in that mirror and you basically get that out of the presentation, then you can't help but be better at whatever you're doing. And the more you invest in your crew and your people and create that synergized team, then when problems get to you, number one, you can minimize the problems by empowering your people anyway with some of the stuff we say, or the other great leaders you're going to have come in and talk. You can empower them that way. If they kind of are able to self-correct and be empowered, there's less work for you as a company officer. But by the time it gets to you, you can handle it because you're empowered, or remind them what our culture is. So maybe that can self-correct. It should never get to the point to where it comes to you. It's like, I don't want to hear it. You take it, Captain. Well, I don't want to hear you take it, Chief. Well, I don't want to hear you take it, the mayor of, it shouldn't be like that. Handle stuff where you get paid at. Where you get paid, handle that. And even if you're getting paid as I'm showing up because I've been here for a year as a firefighter, handle that. Because we paying you to be professional. We paying you to be accountable. We paying you to be ready. We paying you to be trained. We paying you to be a team member. So that before you get the badge, the gold badge, you should be handling it already. So everything is worth it,
Yeah, and so that was one of the things that I really appreciate about what you brought to the table to our folks is the reminder of personal responsibility. You can't blame somebody else. We are promoting people to be. Sometimes we are promoting them to be the adult in the room, right? It could be a frat house, but somebody's got to be the voice of reason,
Right.
and the responsible one. But the point that I really appreciate that you guys brought to it, you brought tools to them, and it's now for them to take that personal responsibility to implement those things. And I'm hoping that it's more of minor course corrections for folks, because in one day you're not going to change somebody who is not capable of being a company officer in one day. That is not reasonable.
No.
And I don't expect that. So there's an element of what you both, Larry and David, bring in your workshop, which actually gets people out of their comfort zone. It reminds them of why we do what we do, and then gives them the opportunities to kind of work through some of these things that you may not expect to encounter, but you have to be prepared. That it's all about relationships.
Yes.
Either you're going to have a good flourishing relationship, or it's going to be broken. So,
and handling this stuff like that, and you and I, Chief, talked about this, I think earlier, is that normalization of deviance, and people always think it's like some of the big buzz things, and if you normalize bad relationships, then that's how we can end up getting to the point of, like, when we do one of the scenes, and I think some people might ask, well, why would you do a thing that addresses mental health and suicide? Why would you even do that? The whole point of illustrating it is letting you know that with that normalization of deviance, if you don't address these things that you don't think are important, it could lead to something that dramatic. So you want to do as much putting out fires as you can as you go along, and don't create that, and create that intentional positive interaction, the intentional building, the intentional synergized way of being, because you wouldn't even think about that, because one of your things would be, well, I got somebody to rely on, I got some self-care, I know that I can to use the resources in place to help, and I don't want to let the team down. So, those things will help you not make some of these maybe, small decisions that affect the team and big decisions. One of the things that we address sometimes is that the reason you got to address little things, because one of the space shuttles blew up was what? The O-rings. It wasn't, something big like, something obvious, like we need to really fix that. Somebody didn't think that was important. But that little attitude of that ain't that important helped, kill people, and destroy a whole mission, so.
Yeah.
But the other thing, sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So just to that point, oftentimes, now having been, not only a company officer, but also now as a chief officer, by the time it gets to our level, there are all of those little things that either have not been done, to now we're at that point where we're at a critical situation. And now it's a matter of, okay, I can't deal with this. I'm now going to then delegate up. When in fact, there were indicators all along, these little tiny things. And it's those little things that just add up to the big thing. And so by the time you get to the big thing, it's oftentimes, to the point where it's like it's going to be either too late or, it's going to require a lot more work to try and get that situation under control.
It's going to hurt more.
One of the other things too, though, we were talking about the scenario Larry just brought up, or scenarios, is that we are also trying to show that if you just, and this is the thing that's always amazing to me, if you just apply what we've been talking about through the workshop, it's about seeing if the technique will work in this situation that you find very uncomfortable. If it'll work there, it'll work when you're talking about who's going to make coffee in the, you know what I mean? It'll work when you're talking about getting to know your people and things like that. So some of the more benign things that we talked about that are really good maintenance for leadership, those things become easier if in this little workshop time, you're able to apply that thing successfully. What you might call more dramatic or extreme situation, so a lot of times it's not about, and I see this when I'm doing other organizations, they'll say, well, this is an accounting firm. Give us a scenario that is specifically about QuickBooks. And you say, well, yeah, but, principally speaking, if I can give you this for this, but that means if you go over to this other program, now you're not going to use this. So if you're just looking for the principle will help you across all of this. Let's learn this principle first, and then you can get to the specifics in a different training. You got to get those basics of personal leadership, those basics of relationship building and maintenance, those types of things that then all the other stuff gets built on. But everybody wants to start their schooling in college as opposed to kindergarten, and it's just really interesting. All the right how the disconnects.
And I think and it's just probably a reflection of our entire culture that people want it and they want it now. Just tell me how you want me to handle this situation with somebody who's suicidal. Give me a day. Give me the cookbook. You can tell me the answers. It's not that. It is never that.
Yeah, as a person who goes around teaching interpersonal communications, it is never that, because humans are a walking X factor. I mean, just the minute you think something is going to go a particular way, it just does not go that way, So, you got to be ready.
Well, yeah. Definitely. And we have to be ready. The reason we're so emphatic about it, and maybe people think we can be over the top with the scenarios and all that, the reason we take it through an acid test like that, because like I said, if you can handle that, then you maybe have some seed planted or some muscle memory on how to handle, things that you can't foresee. But if we give you kind of these softball type of scenarios and everybody clap, even though you didn't come up with a good conclusion, thanks for participating. Life just does not work like that. So when people like, oh, they was in our face about it, or they kind of like, no, we give you difficult things because when you don't, you look like you work out. You don't go to a gym and say, what's the lightest weight in here? Yes, that's what's going to make me strong. And then you just run over, and you do that. Why does it take me 100 years to get strong? Because you're picking up the lightest weight. You got to pick up the heavy weight. You got to challenge yourself. The resistance is where the strength lies, not the lightweight.
But you're talking about culture. Today's culture, the weight is an Ozempic pen. You know what I mean? So
right. Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
culture
I
today.
don't,
You know,
right, I don't want to lose weight. I want a shot. So
right,
when we
right.
start coming in talking about principles, incremental changes, you didn't get big overnight, so you ain't gonna get small overnight. Blasphemy! Get out of our place with that mad talk. We want quick stuff and we want it now. If you can't get it to us now, get out of this facility. We're like, maybe we're in the wrong place, because principally stuff just don't work like that. It just don't. And I don't love you if I don't tell you the truth about it. I just don't love you. So I don't, if I'm lying to you, I don't love you. So let's just get that right,
Yeah. Amen.
But but let's start wrapping this up. It's been great. I want to talk to you later offline about getting on some of those committees, since I'm the safety chief as well. And then because I was really, it was actually quite a coincidence that I really doubled down on the stand down. I always mess it up, the fire safety stand down. And we did that back in June. And I was looking through it again, like, and there are you, right? All big and, like you naming lights right there. So I said, I know this guy, but I don't know this guy. So, but that's another thing we are implementing in Collinsville, is to do that each year. We did it last year. We did it this year. I think last year was on lithium battery. This year was on back to the basics, and back to the basics is something that I really preach. That's part of what my brand is master the basics, do the basics till you can't get them wrong. Don't do it till you get it right. Do it till you can't get it wrong. And if we master those basics, then everything else builds on that. So I would love to, kind of get a little more involved in, the behind the scenes of how that even comes to be for each year. And so I can help be a stakeholder in those initiatives as well.
Well, don't be surprised when your phone starts ringing in a few months when we start to reconvene our committee. So,
okay. Okay, cool. So let's go around the horn here and have the closing words. Let's start with Mama Elaine and David. Let's start with the chief. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, let's start with the chief, our guest, and then Mama Elaine, David, and then me. So closing words, Chief Wallentine.
Well, I just want to thank all of you for having me on your podcast, and I'm very excited for what you brought to Sarasota County, and see it in action with our folks. I can't thank you enough. Looking forward to future collaborations, and it's just one of those. Again, like I mentioned, this is a huge career field, but it's often a very tight-knit, small, network of people that you end up making connections with, and I'm very, very pleased that we were able to host you down here in Sarasota. And you're going to have to come out here when it's not so rainy, and and then we'll get you back down here in the winter time when you could be out shoveling snow.
Yes, thank you.
You could be out here. You could be down here at the beach, hanging out with all of us. So thank you so much.
And here's what I found out, David, too, is that in his deluxe apartment in the sky, that they have part of their amenities, David, is that they have a guest apartment for their guests. So if you have a guest apartment, you got your own everything. So you ain't got to pile up with them and sleep on the let out bed and all that. You can go to the guest. So since you got the guest place, I can make sure his kids and stuff ain't there on the day his day ain't there. Guess where I'm gonna be? I'm be in the guest room, the guest apartment.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. That's I'll be done with this master's degree in December. I'm gonna need a break. You know where I'm gonna be? I'll be there in the guest apartment.
Be back down here in Sarasota.
Chilling like a villain. Using those vacation days.
Yep. Come on.
All right, Mama, what you got to say?
How many rooms in the guest house?
Boy,
We've got 4.
Oh, okay. Then I'll be with it. I love
can't go
Florida.
nowhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
I couldn't go
Find your own
nowhere.
friend.
When I started nothing, it won't be nothing. All those years I went without. Anyway, I digress. But no, I really like you. And I think you're doing a great job. So,
Thank you.
and some of the things you brought up, especially the part about, how to include the family and use the principles to be at home and at work, because sometimes we let one thing interfere with the other. So to have any kind of, plan or whatever the way you want to do things that you can apply at home and at work is really important. And especially with a job like firefighters, because that's a real deep job. I mean, everybody's job has some issues, but I think that's kind of extra. So for you to be a leader in that area is good and great. And you seems like somebody that wants to help in every area, not just on the job. And because we have to remember that what goes on at the house can impact what goes on at the job, negatively or positively. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming and sharing with us so that we could see all of those connections that need to be made. Because sometimes people think they just need to be on the ones and the twos at home, or just at work, or whatever, or not at all. So the fact that you want to blend the two, I think that's what I thought was very good thing to bring out and to talk about.
Thank you.
Impressed me.
Chief Darin Wallentine, also known on the streets as Chief D-Dub. I just a personal thanks for your hospitality while we were in Sarasota. We had a great time, and
Great barbecue.
you showed us a lot of love, and a lot of times we got to walk to the venue or something. You try not to leave Larry in charge of logistics, but you took care of us, and we didn't have to have those uncomfortable conversations. But no, I appreciate you being on the show as well, and looking forward to future collaborations. What you guys are doing down there for this expansion, how you're planning for it, how you're planning for the future, even after you would be gone, is something to be modeled. So, I commend you, and the chief for what you're doing and for doing that in any way that we can assist you or help. Don't hesitate to reach out. So, we're looking forward to staying in touch and to, solidifying this relationship even more.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it's great experience so far, and David was finally glad we booked somewhere warm. So we always end up in somewhere cold, and so
Always, even in the summer.
But no.
He's always talking about he's a tropical brother, but he got that from his tropical mother.
Right. So
throw that in there right quick.
It's hereditary, But
Last summer we went to Antarctica. I'm just telling you.
Well, they need glue too. They need glue in the cold.
When I go to Antarctica, I'm gonna come unglued.
Right.
I'm not gonna interrupt anymore.
But we appreciate the time. We appreciate the wisdom. We got a lot in common as far as our new position, but what we seem to both bring is that we were good students of growing up in the service, and that wisdom has helped pay off to blessing us with our next steps in our careers. And and it's easy to retire and say, hey, I did that and had a good time and whatever, but to be able to retire and still work in another capacity in the service that you love, I consider that a blessing no matter where you work. If we were north, or we were here in beautiful downtown Collinsville, Illinois, or down in Florida. It's a blessing, and I don't take that lightly. And it's good to network with other people who can really understand what you're going through, because they're going through it in real time like you. And so for me to maybe talk to a chief who didn't walk this path and just, it'll be all right. Just keep doing chief stuff. Is that good enough? Be like, didn't really hit the bullseye, chief, but thanks for taking my call. But to be able to talk to somebody who, and network with somebody who's walking the shoes now, and when I get to Florida, we'll be walking the sand, but right now walking the shoes is kind of cool. All right, so I'm appreciating it, and also let's keep fighting the good fight. I like the one thing that we might go around the country and run into some resistance on. People asking why is stuff this way, but we still keep running into good people who fighting the good fight and saying, I know there are a lot of things that have changed. I know we got a lot of great technology. We are invested in mental health better than ever before. A lot of things we used to kind of ignore and say, just get over it. Now we're finding out that that's not a good path, and really, finding those nuances of trying to help somebody get through stuff. Mental health in the fire service, where it used to be a huge taboo, has made some giant leaps toward healing. We still got a ways to go, but man, we've made some giant steps in that regard. So when you talk about stuff like that, we're doing well, but there's still some things that we still need to do better. And having this kind of instant, just show me how, without I ain't got time for you to explain the why. We need to hold on that, because it's all fire. The principle of fire, building fires, other kind of emergencies, that principles of those things don't change. We tend to change and think that, we can kind of shortcut some of the stuff, but those things don't change. And if the principles of those things don't change, then we shouldn't either. So we need to stand strong on, lately I'm hearing this whole thing like, well, maybe we should really kind of lower the standards because our retention is down. I don't know. Keep the standards where they are and keep them higher, because you want the best of the best. You don't want somebody saying, well, ain't nothing else to do out here, I might as well be a firefighter. To me, that's scary to be on the line with somebody who's like that. And I'm not trying to be critical of abilities or anything like that. I'm just saying, no matter what, if fire, which is one of the most dangerous jobs in America, requires a certain amount of excellence and accountability, then that's what we should be constantly recruiting. The other answer to that too is that, as far as what we've been talking about tonight, when we have these great interpersonal relationships and we build in these great synergized teams, then maybe we won't lose so many so fast, and then the retention is strong, so we don't have to be, compromising recruitment. So maybe we should make sure, instead of trying to recruit anybody, have the retention based on our better relationships, and then even that is a recruitment tool, because you'll be so happy. It's just like church, and my mom's a minister, so you can attest to this. If you go to a good church, the reason good churches recruit people, because people at the church, or, it's like, man, that person is always happy, or at work, they seem to handle stress a certain way that I didn't, or they seem to be pretty wholesome in their character. What do? I go to this church. Well, I need to come there to see what y'all doing. And then next thing you know, you got another person at church. But if you got a church where you got, I'm mad, I'm pissed off, I'm mediocre. What church you go to? I don't want to go to that church.
I don't want to go to that church.
I don't want to go to church of mediocrity. I want to go to principle, integrity, happy, good church. Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying all that to say is that if we have that kind of discipleship mentality about the fire service, what fire service you at? This one. I want to go there. Where do I sign up? Well, we require this much. We require this amount of integrity, skills, readiness, and commitment. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Is it like that being? Go ahead.
Yeah, we're not going to give it to you. You're going to have to earn it.
Yeah, but you're going
to have to find your way in this culture that is at that standard. We have a culture that's at that standard. Yes. And those people who are not at that standard will wash out of that. They won't stay there.
They won't be able to last.
Yeah.
When I used to do recruit classes, one of the biggest critics of my recruit class is like, you too hard on them. And I said, I'm not hard on them. I'm just not compromising. The bar is here. Don't get mad at me because I'm not lowering the bar, altering the bar, or whatever like that. It's the bar. So man, woman, whatever, you got to get here because here is what is required to serve, do the best service for them or for that or for whatever the case may be. But if I do this and the requirement is here, I am teaching you deficit. And deficit becomes a habit. And the habit of deficit, when the bar is here, kills people. So this is the standard. And I'm not bending on the standard. If you're going to call me a butthole for not bending on the standard, then I'll take that. Because I'd rather be a butthole not building the standard than a nice person who done built the standard. You get her to kill. And then, what did we say earlier? You and I were talking earlier. And I'll say this, I'll wrap it up with this. When people used to get on me about, like, Conley at the firehouse, and they get mad at maybe it's something I didn't bend on I felt was an important policy. I said, I'd rather you be cursing me out on the way home. You know why? Because you're alive. Than me not having the courage to tell you what needs to be done, standing there and holding the line on that. But then if something happened to you where you become disabled or die, I got to tell your wife or your kids that you ain't coming home no more because I didn't have the courage to stand up to you. So you're going to get stirred up to if you work for me. And if you don't like it, then curse me out on the way home because at least you'll be alive. Yep. So I can live with that, but I can't live with not telling you what the standard is, and then something bad happens to you. Then I gotta live with that. And so being selfish, I ain't gonna live with that. But you gonna live if I got something to do with it. So that's so we're not compromised, and that don't mean I do everything perfect. I don't. Who does? But on the things that are critical for the excellence of our job, then let's concentrate more on building those relationships for retention and then trying to design lower standards for recruitment. Let's do that. Let's try that.
So sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So anyway, amen. All right, amen. There's my head. Pass this plate around. Get some money. But anyway, join us for another exciting episode. Right now, you're going to be listening to the August 5th edition. We'll be back in 7 weeks for another exciting episode. David and I have been working on a great list that we're going to present and try to get all these great minds to come and talk leadership. We're going to listen, learn, and laugh on the next Larry Conley radio show. Check us out, www.gluenationldc.com. For those of you who submitted your classes for FDIC 2025, you got a little something coming in the middle of August. Check it out. And we're going to be ready, start getting ready for next year's time. Stay safe. Don't lower those standards. Keep the standards high. Protect yourself, protect your family. Get along with each other. Get along with each other. Practice it with the people you do know, so you can be ready to handle the people you don't know. And I can't wait to get back to Florida. Yeah, we might have to do a part 2. We'll Arnold Schwarzenegger. We'll be back. So, so anyway, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.